Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me, Darvell, here, and I want to talk about something very important today. We need to talk about the black vote. We need to talk about how the black vote is wielded, right? We need to talk about where we need to be with the black vote. Listen, this is how it really goes, right? Our parents and our grandparents and great grandparents, even, they fought too hard for the right to vote, and we put in too much effort to turn out our community each presidential election cycle to simply be doing it for nothing. We do it with so much energy, like an existential threat is looming every 4 years, but not out of general good practice of being politically astute do we do it. Not at all times, no. Yet politics is the business of distributing and managing resources in this country, and that's always being done at all times. Yet we're the ones with the least. So we're not practicing what we need to be practicing consistently enough, and things are happening around us, and we're not engaged in that polity. We're not engaged in those politics. And so this is how people become jaded with the election process, and they stop voting altogether, because the falsehoods we are sold and we repeat to each other, and the lack of return on our investment we receive as a result, leads people to believe the system is inoperable. Have you ever heard someone say that voting doesn't do anything? As bad as that is, it's rooted in an undeniable reality that the black community has been abused and given nothing for our vote since LBJ. And as a result, our quality of life metrics are still disproportionately worse, and there is no evidence of systemic corrections being put into place. Our health outcomes are consistently the worst. Our lineage wealth gap has not been meaningfully narrowed. We still have the highest rate of crime against us, that is hate crime. Our children still struggle in school. Our cities are amongst the most dangerous in the country. Point blank, period. Why is that? Because we're playing around. We're playing around with the one thing that gives us political leverage without sending or spending a single dime of our money. And that's our vote. Black suffrage was not only a demand of equal citizenship, but also a demand for a voice in the governance of the country. Our forefathers and mothers were beaten and bled to death to build at the hands of violent private white citizens who were enabled by the U.S. government for 250 years. Now, we are faced with a conundrum. We don't know how to vote. People are afraid and are being misguided repeatedly. It's scary in and of itself because we're so far gone. Our most ardent and vocal community organizers are actually keeping us in a burning house. Remember when Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about the burning house? These people are brainwashed into believing, or at least they're being paid to pretend they believe. And therefore they tell us the least of two evils is all we have to worry about, and we can clean up the rest later after election. Or we'll just need to find a different way to get ours outside of the political engagement. Yet, we all know in America, transformation only takes place thanks to legislation and the will of a mass of people. And so either the mass of people force legislation to be made, or legislation forces a mass of people to take action. I know you heard what happened during the recent Democratic primary. Over 100,000 people in Michigan cast protest votes. They cast a vote that was uncommitted in the Democratic primary. Those votes were a signal from a single voting bloc. Arab Americans. They were frustrated with Joe Biden's lack of action against Israel's relentless bombardment of Gaza. That sent a strong signal. So strong, in fact, the Biden campaign sent Kamala Harris out directly to finally detest Israel's actions and demand a ceasefire. That's all it took. A community sending a demand and showing it meant business. They could very well vote for third-party candidates or even abstain from the polls entirely come November, and that's a threat that the Democrats are not willing to take laying down. So no matter how you feel about that, the math is the math, and abstaining for them isn't tied to post-traumatic slave syndrome and the emotional baggage of accrued disadvantage like it is for us. They understand voting is part of the business of running this country, and they will not stand for anything less than what they want their government leaders to do. They understand the power and purpose of the vote. Our ancestors would be ashamed of us for not treating our vote as strongly as they have, and they'd be ashamed of us for treating our vote as cavalier and meaningless as we do right now. Now let the Black community have done that. Filed over 100,000 protest votes. What could have we demanded in return? Could you imagine what you may have been able to bargain in return? Well, the list is maybe nearly endless. Maybe passing an anti-Black hate crime bill? Maybe institute restorative business grant programs specific to descendants of American slavery to provide billions in working capital, basically guaranteed every year as seed money for real, true, multi-employee brick and mortar or physical good producing businesses? Or maybe even provide unconditional reparative funding to schools who serve majority Black populations. These ideas sound like solutions to reverse the damage of systemic harms and close our gap to the average American in the quality of life metrics that we oh so much are down in. My gosh, what Black person dare demand such a thing as a result of all the past we and our ancestors, our mother, our fathers, our grandmothers, grandfathers have undergone? Jim Crow, mass incarceration, redlining, over-policing, underfunded schools, Homestead Act exclusions, failure of the Freedmen's Bank, and we can go on. What Black person dare hold such an offending party accountable to repair damage done by all of that? The Black community, as a critical, non-negotiable voting bloc for the Democrats, which has been taken for granted within the Democratic Party, needs to self-educate and understand what we ought to be looking for in exchange for our vote.